Good evening. I'm Dr. Chris Jeremiah Richardson, and I'm here today to talk about the truth about the Peloponnesian Wars, which lasted in America from 1930 to 1949, during which time Greek undocumented soldiers came upon the shores of Washington, D.C. and declared war on Franklin Donatello Roosevelt because of his beautiful wife, Penelope. And for 20 years, there was a battle, primarily between FDR and Achilles. And the liberal media elite want you to believe that Achilles won. But in fact, FDR prospered and Penelope was safe in the White House forevermore. Actually, no, I'm really here today to talk about why citations are important, because I'm sure you know this, but anyone can say anything on the internet. Anyone can write anything on the internet, and you might not even realize, but anyone can write anything in an essay that they then turn in for class for credit, and this becomes a really big problem. And I know you might be thinking that MLA style, APA style was an invention to torture students made by sadistic professors. But in reality, I just want to stress the importance of citing your work and citing it in a style that makes sense. So for example, if I'm looking over an essay and I see that you're making a claim like I just did, then I'm going to check if there's any sources that you've used, and chances are you weren't able to find any university or scholarly sources that claim the Peloponnesian Wars were, when did I say, 1930 to 1950? Obviously that's a big issue. Most people don't lie that gratuitously, but how do you know what you're saying is true? How do you know what your professor is saying is true? You should always be looking for where this information is coming from and whether or not reliable sources have been cited. So this is why it's so crucial that you both cite your sources and cite them in a way that allows the professor, whoever's reading your work, to see where you're getting that information and whether or not it's a credible source. That doesn't mean that all work that's cited is good, and it doesn't mean that anything that a credible person or group says is valid, because oftentimes we realize we thought we knew something and we didn't. And even though peers found it reliable at the time, we now realize that that information was flawed in whatever way. But that's still much better than saying anything you feel like, because I'm sure if I was so motivated, I could get your uncle or whoever to post about the Peloponnesian Wars in America on the shores of Washington, D.C., especially if I said that it was a Democratic hoax put on by the Democrats. Or maybe if it's a left-leaning professor or whatever, I could say that the Republicans are now fighting to, to bring back the portrait of Penelope that FDR hid in the White House. And we see this all the time. It is a huge problem for democracy, for the world, and for science and achievement in every field. So when I or other people ask you to cite your sources, please just remember that anyone can say anything. And so this is one way in which we can check that you've read some reliable sources, you know that they're reliable because you're willing to cite them. Anytime somebody says something that you don't believe and they don't have something to back it up with, don't believe it. And that's how I treat your essays, and that's how I treat the things that you're going to say, and that's how you should treat the things that I say. If I come up with some crazy stuff like that, you should, I hope, call me on it, because that's what liberal arts education is about. That's what college is about, is questioning the information you're given. So yeah, in actuality, the Peloponnesian Wars lasted for only 5 years because FDR was such a wonderful fighter. He karate kicked Achilles in the throat, and that's how it really ended. So please spread the word. Don't let these people try to convince you that Greeks won that war, or that don't let anyone try to convince people that FDR wasn't an amazing martial artist, because that's the truth. I don't have my sources with me today, but I'll find them and I'll send them to you. If you're interested, just send me an email. Please cite your sources, and please cite them an MLA or APA, or for my class, even Chicago style is fine, as long as you do it in the same way throughout the essay or throughout your work. Thanks very much. Keep thinking critically.